So the other day we got to go to the AQUAMAN movie premiere in Los Angeles, and afterwards there was an after party with the cast and crew and a whole bunch of people that got invited, including us two knuckleheads. There was James Wan standing there talking with friends and whatnot, and I tried to catch him when he was like not preoccupied for a half second. I tapped him on the shoulder, he turns around and goes, "Hey, you're the one that does the reaction videos." I'm not making that up, he literally said that to my face, and he saw ACHARA standing there and he goes, "You too!" That blew my mind so much so that I didn't know what to say for a second because James Wan was excited to see us. I met him twice before, that's not where he knew me from. He recognized us from the video he watched of ours. Now that I know he watches our content, at least when it's related to his movies, I just wanna say AQUAMAN is a perfect movie, 10 out of 10. No problems whatsoever, you must go watch it now. I'm gonna break this up into two portions, the general audience feeling I anticipate people will feel, and the more critical look. So let's start off with the general audience feeling. I would say that most people watching this film will come out having really enjoyed it. It's a non-stop adventure from start to finish, so much so that I could not find a good opportunity to have a pee break. The one moment where I thought the film was slowing down, it turned out to be an action scene, so I came back and I was pissed, no pun intended.
We could have just peed on it.
Overall, it was a lot of fun. There's actually a lot of great action sequences. This film has a lot of heart and that human element that I felt was lacking in a number of Zack Snyder films.
It's certainly a visual spectacle as well, and
Yeah.
I think it really does deserve being watched on a big screen.
I would second that. I think that it's definitely worth watching in a good theater with a great screen and great audio. I think that one of the things that a lot of people were anxious about was how the underwater world was gonna look.
Yeah.
I think they actually did a fantastic job with that. There is a lot of CGI in the film, but I think they used it very, very well and effectively for the most part. Just know that for most people, I think that they're just gonna really enjoy all of it.
Yeah, and as someone who, as a kid, absolutely loved the sea, just watching how they brought the world to life underwater, it was so magical.
There's also an aspect of environmentalism in the film. It's woven throughout just to like really, you know, send the message home.
Yeah,
but
just to remind you.
Yeah, but it's not beating you over the head. They used it in a very artful way so as to inform the plot. Jason Momoa as Aquaman I thought was great. I've liked him since Justice League.
Awesome.
I was initially reluctant when, you know, they showed him in Batman v Superman, but watching him in Justice League and obviously watching him in this, I'm like, oh, he's a great Aquaman.
Yeah,
Like,
he's awesome. He's just so charming and he looks great as Aquaman. He moves really well in the action sequences.
Right, you buy him as the character that they constructed.
Yeah.
This person who is kind of rejected where he comes from, and they really justified in the movie. He's not just this guy with a chip on his shoulder for no reason. Like, they really show you why he feels the way
Yeah.
he does, and it makes sense.
And he's got some really great, heartwarming moments. That's what makes this origin story really interesting because it is moving. You see him as a person who has flaws, just like all of us. He's just trying to make do with what he's got.
My favorite actor in the film was Willem Dafoe. He managed to bring a lot of nuance to it, even with what little he had to play with. Him as the master, the instructor. You could see where he's coming from and you could see like what's going on with him mentally, why he is the way he is, why he's doing what he does.
Speaking of other fantastic actors, I really enjoyed Nicole Kidman. Not only because she got to kick some amazing butt, she just brought a lot of heart and emotion to this as well.
There's another actor here who plays Aquaman's father, Temuera Morrison. I don't know his body of work, but I thought that he was well casted for the role.
That's the cool thing as well, is like the relationship between his mother and father. That really did just kind of make things come around full circle and make it more of a human story as opposed to being a story about like, these are superheroes whose world is like so vastly different from our own, but we can understand a mother and a father, two people in love.
There was a lot of comedy in the movie, and that was on purpose. James Wan wanted this to be something with a lot more levity. He succeeded. There was certainly a lot of good jokes. There was some stuff that was already shown in the trailer. A lot of stuff actually was shown in the trailer, and that was a little bit frustrating. I knew exactly what was coming sometimes because of the trailer. That being said, I think most people are gonna really enjoy the comedy in the film. It really has fun with itself. My primary reason for wanting to revisit this film and watch it a second time is actually the action sequences. There was some really, really cool action and some really creative moments that James Wan constructed. He brought an art to it
Yeah.
that I hadn't seen very much in any other comic book films. And
That's
so,
actually a really good description. It was very beautiful and artistic.
for that reason alone, those reasons alone, I would say you definitely need to watch it. With that being said, we're gonna move into the more critical angle of things. I'm gonna still keep it non-spoiler if you're apprehensive about that, but just know that this is like the more like nitpicky side of the review. My favorite part actually happened very early in the film. There was a fight scene that happens. That's actually what I conveyed to James Wan when I got to talk to him. What he told me was he got to do one of his favorite things, which is a long take. It was just marvelously done. I could tell that he was working hand in hand with his fight choreographer, whereas a lot of directors will work against their fight choreographer. Having spoken to a lot of fight choreographers, what they often find is that they'll suggest camera angles that are optimal for capturing the action, and then a director will go, oh yeah, that's great, and then go and do like extreme close-ups and kind of lose the nuances of the action. Whereas here, you got to see all the nuances of the action, and yet you still felt the impact of it. To me, that's a great balance. In the middle of the movie, there was a fight scene that was, I would guess, 100% CGI, and that bothered me a lot while I was watching it. I know that most people won't care, but for me, it's like I could not help but be reminded that I was watching an animation. That is not what the case is for most of the action in the film. I think most of the action is actually, when you're dealing with like people, it is live action, it is practical, and you get to like actually see them. They did some incredible de-aging with the CGI in the film. That's one of those things that will go unnoticed. Like you notice like the big explosions and all the fish and all the action sequences and whatnot underwater, the big war, like that's very obvious. But what's not obvious is when someone is several years younger.
Decades younger.
Yeah, they did it in a very subtle way so that it didn't draw attention to itself.
One of my favorite scenes was when they got to go down into the deep, and I felt like at that moment I could really see how James Wan's previous body of work as a horror director was kind of coming through, because that part was actually really scary. It brings across that feeling of how deep, dark, and mysterious and dangerous the deep underwater of the sea actually is.
I certainly felt the same. I was concerned about how kids might feel because there are some monster creatures in the movie that are quite scary looking. I was like, wow, he pushed that envelope of PG-13 as much as he could in this particular scene here.
We could unite our worlds one day.
What the film was saying about Aquaman, him being like this hybrid of two worlds and how he has to save the world, I felt like that spoke to every single whatever ethnic person.
I turned to you at the end of the movie and I was like, okay, so basically this movie is about how Happas are gonna change the world. I feel like we're in a good place, Jaby.
Right. Happas, if you guys don't know, is half Asian, half white, or half Asian, half anything else. And
it's a Hawaiian term.
Right. He's caught between two worlds. He feels like he belongs here, but he really belongs here. Like I felt that growing up where I didn't really know where I belonged. I think a lot of mixed ethnic individuals feel the same way, and so this is like the superhero movie for them.
That's awesome, and I feel like the movie itself also speaks not just to people who are of mixed descent, but to anyone who's ever felt that they were a misfit or an outcast.
So going back to some of the nitpicks, in the first 20-25 minutes you're introduced to Black Manta. That whole thing was very melodramatic. Black Manta was probably the weakest character in the movie for how important he is to the plot.
Yeah.
He's very underdeveloped. He's like a one-note guy. The action, don't get me wrong, was dope. Like I thought there was some great action with Black Manta in general, and they made him look formidable and intimidating during certain scenes. But just like on the deeper human level, I just didn't connect with Black Manta as a villain.
Not even close.
Like the way I did with
Killmonger.
Killmonger, yeah. I felt such a stronger connection to Killmonger than I did to Black Manta. The other villain, who was not really prominent in the trailer, was much more developed. There were some music choices throughout the film that I didn't care for, but I feel like that's more and more my feeling these days. There is just soundtrack music showing up in films and I'm like, I would have gone with something else. I try to imagine watching this film 20 years from now. Like you can watch Batman Returns today, and because they use predominantly instrumental music that was constructed by Danny Elfman, it still stands the test of time. But when you're using a lot of soundtrack music, I feel like it ages it very, very quickly. But that's my personal take, I don't know, whatever.
The only thing that I would say with the music was I didn't really feel like Aquaman had his personal theme.
That's another thing, I would second
Yeah,
that.
I wish that there was something like a refrain or something like that, like they did in Wonder Woman, where you're like, ah, yeah, that's Wonder Woman.
They tried to give him a sound. It was like this guitar riff, kind of like they did for Wonder Woman, and it just didn't come through. It was almost as if the music composer came up with a sound, and either he got cold feet about it, so he kind of dialed it back, or James Wan was like, yeah, I don't like it, so they dialed it back.
Okay.
Someone didn't like it because it wasn't very prominent.
No.
It was there, and then it went away, and I'm like, you guys are like pussyfooting about this. Like, are you gonna do the theme or not? And there was no theme, ultimately, is what the result was. But for the most part, the music helped move the movie along.
Yeah.
Real quick, I think that Jason Momoa did a great job. Amber Heard did fine. Willem Dafoe did amazing. Patrick Wilson did good. I got to tell him that in the bathroom stairwell. Nicole Kidman did a great job. Dolph Lundgren. Yeah,
He was
Dolph
fun.
Lundgren. Yeah, he was a lot of fun. Yahya Abdul Mateen II did not have enough to play with, I felt. So I don't say that it's his fault that I didn't enjoy his character more. He only had so much to work
No, I
with.
agree. I wish we could have seen more of Manta. Felt him as more of a human being as opposed to like, whoop, here's a villain.
Tamura Morrison, again, did a great job. This movie has solidified for me that I just don't like Randall Park.
What? You're crazy.
I don't like his acting. Maybe he'll get better with time.
Oh, no.
Again, overall, I really enjoyed the film. I look forward to watching it again. I strongly recommend it. I think you guys will have a lot of fun. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be honest, be verbose. Check out ACHARA KIRK on the social media. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our other reactions, reviews, and short films. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.